Hello everybody, this is Eric Burcham with ApexCCTV. Welcome back to our training video series on how to do port forwarding for surveillance equipment. First thing that's going to come into play, if we go look at my network settings here on my PC, which if you're using a PC-based DVR, you would get to these a certain way. Of course, I've covered how to configure those elsewhere, but specifically we want to talk about the DNS server. So let's go look at my internet version or internet protocol properties, and here we can see that on our network we actually have two DNS servers, which is a good thing. If the first one goes down for any reason, then requests can fail over to the second, and so on. So again, DNS resolves a name to an IP address. So if I go and run a command line, I'm just going to ping my own PC here. So its name on the network is Burcham Eric, and that resolved to my local IP address. So maybe I'll ping, I don't know, one of our domain controllers. So I'll ping DC4. So that comes back with 192.168.1.203. So the service that resolves this name into this number is called DNS. Most DVRs or IP cameras are going to have an entry in their network settings page, whether it's PC-based or a standalone or camera, for a DNS server, and you want to populate that information so that the camera can resolve names if it ever needs to. So if your DVR is dvr1.apexcctv.com and you want to just remember that name rather than the IP address all the time, then putting in a DNS server in your DVR will allow you to do that. So in order to find DNS servers on most people's network, we go use my favorite command line tool, which is ipconfig, and the basic information doesn't show it, but if you do ipconfig/all, then it's going to have a list of all the DNS servers that your network configuration or your network interface card is configured for. There is something to look out for. I'm going to highlight a piece of this for you here. So we have what's called the subnet, these first three octets of these IP addresses. That's the subnet that we're currently on, 192.168.1. That's what we use in our office. If this subnet for the IP addresses does not match the default gateway subnet, what that probably means is that the DNS server is outside the network, or certainly outside the network segment, and that's bad news. If at all possible, we want to use a DHCP server that's on the network so that we can resolve network names as well as public names that are on the internet. What I will recommend is that, of course, we all know from earlier training videos, I hope, that the default gateway is usually the router. And having said that, most routers have a DNS server built in that will forward requests to their public DNS server, and that allows them to be able to resolve DNS queries that are both local and public. So I'll give you an example. If I ping, again on our network, DC4, which is a machine here in the office, our DNS server will return the IP address, which is 192.168.1.203. If I ping www.google.com, then I'm going to get one of Google's IP addresses at least, which is 74.125.67.104. And if we notice again, this octet here doesn't match this one at all. So what that means is that our DNS server is properly configured to handle both, or our router, which would be the term you guys normally would find that they're one and the same for your customers. If you have public IP or public DNS servers in this list, try the router first. See if it works. You can log into it specifically using NSLookup. So if you type this, it's going to give you a cursor where you can resolve addresses. So if I do ApexCCTV.com, it's going to give me back. It's going to tell me what server I got the information from, and it's also going to tell me the IP address information here. So if I want to use a different server, I can type server space and then whatever IP address I want. So in this case, I was using 201. I'll try a different one of my DNS servers. We'll try 203. and see if that one can do this also. We'll try a different server name this time. So that's local, and again, if I try a public IP address, they both work. By contrast, if I were connected to a public DNS server, I would not be able to resolve this entry, because that public server has no idea how my network is configured or anything else that it needs to get this information. So let's go take a look at a public DNS server, or I'm sorry, at a public server that's outside of my network. So I'll log into one of our web servers here. So I'll just log into this, and let's resolve one of our public-facing demos. We have a GeoVision demo DVR setup that's available 24/7, and it's called geodemo.apexCCTV.com. And if I resolve that with a ping, I'll come back and see that the IP address is 74.7.157.185. So again, DNS just translates a name into a number. I can browse to that IP address in a browser, and I can get the demo. Right, there it is. Or I can do it by name and get the exact same thing. And I actually have quite a few servers set up this way. I'll give you an example of another thing you can do, which is called WINS. It's such an old technology, I don't even remember what the acronym stands for, but it still works great. And that allows you to relate a non-domain. So like, for example, our domain is ApexCCTV.com. WINS allows you to translate just a simple plain name. For example, we've got a PT7135 in the office. I can hit it externally by this IP address. So if I click here, there's my camera login. I can get to it from the outside world. Or, and this is really, really useful for your customers, by the way. So I'll give you an example. Internally, that camera is on 192.168.1.50. So if I type that, here's my camera login, I click OK, and here's my camera. The problem with this is that people don't remember IP addresses very well. For whatever reason, that just, it's not like memorizing a phone number. They don't use them often enough. They'll call you and ask you what it was or how to find it. If you have a WINS server, and we have one through Active Directory, so I can go in here and connect to a server. I'm sorry, I need to right click and do it on WINS and add a server here. And there's a lot of different types of WINS servers, so I won't cover specifically how to do this for Active Directory, but I can connect to this one, view my active registrations, and then I can go add one if I want to. So I can make a new static mapping. So for example, this thing I'll just call video demo, which, by the way, right now if we ping it, won't resolve to anything. So it's going to come back and say I can't find the host name. So if I add an IP address for that camera here, my WINS server, then I should be able to resolve that name. So I'll flush my DNS resolver cache and try it again. And now it comes back as 192.168.50. So now instead of telling my customer to memorize this IP address, I can just tell them to remember, type in video demo. That's easy. And of course, there's my camera. So WINS, I just bring it up. It's useful if you've got it available. You won't always or even often, but it's related to DNS. Again, it's like a phone book for IP addresses. It just resolves names to numbers, and it's a way to make a nice, easy interface for your users to get into their DVR or their IP camera. Everybody, this has been ApexCCTV's training video on, I guess it's been pretty broadly related to DNS and name resolution for surveillance gear. We hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please come check us out on the web at www.apexcctv.com. We've got a ton more training videos and great deals on gear as well. Thank you.